My beloved, when God begins to move in your life, you won't need to announce it. Signs will follow you, doors will open for you, and even your enemies will start to serve your purpose. Stay with me today, because before this message ends, you will know how to recognize when heaven itself is working on your behalf. My brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when you feel like you are walking alone, when every effort seems small and every prayer seems unanswered. But then, there comes a season when everything changes. Suddenly, you begin to sense a shift, not outside, but deep within your spirit. You wake up with strength you didn't have yesterday. You face challenges that used to break you. And this time, they cannot move you. This is not coincidence, this is evidence. Evidence that God is helping you. When heaven begins to align with your destiny, 7 things will begin to manifest, not by your power, not by your plan, but by the invisible hand of God. When God begins to help you, the first and most powerful sign you will notice is divine acceleration. Things that once took years begin to unfold in a fraction of the time. You will find yourself walking into opportunities that you didn't even plan for, achieving goals you never thought you were ready for, and witnessing doors swing open before you can even reach for the handle. This is not because you suddenly became smarter, richer, or more connected. It is because heaven has decided that your season has come. When God helps you, time itself bends in your favor. Divine acceleration is not the same as human ambition. Ambition pushes, acceleration carries. Ambition says, I will make this happen by my strength. Acceleration says, God is making this happen through His grace. You see, when you are striving in your own strength, everything feels heavy. You fight for every inch of progress, and yet it seems like something is always resisting you. But when the hand of God begins to help you, you begin to move without friction. You start to see that what was once difficult now flows easily, and what was once confusing now becomes clear. God does not need human calendars to fulfill His promises. He does not consult your age, your qualifications, or your surroundings to determine when to move. When He helps you, He redeems time. The wasted years, the missed chances, the broken opportunities, He gathers them all and compresses them into a divine moment of restoration. Suddenly, the years you thought were lost begin to make sense, because He is able to give you in 1 year what you could not achieve in 10. Think about the story of Joseph. One day he was in prison, forgotten by men. The next day he was standing before Pharaoh, interpreting dreams that would shape the destiny of a nation. That was divine acceleration. God did not just free him, He elevated him beyond reason. When the help of God is released over your life, it does not take time, it takes timing. The moment heaven declares, no, everything begins to align. People who forgot you will remember you. Doors that rejected you will suddenly open. Resources you never asked for will find you. Acceleration is not always visible to others at first. Sometimes God works behind the scenes, arranging circumstances, shifting hearts, and repositioning people. You might not see the progress day by day, but one morning, you will look around and realize that you have moved farther than you ever imagined. The same God who spoke light into darkness can speak movement into your stagnation. He can take what has been delayed and make it arrive right on time. When divine acceleration begins, even your mistakes are redeemed. The enemy thought he delayed you, but God uses that delay as preparation. The wrong turns, the disappointments, the seasons of waiting, they all become the foundation of your breakthrough. Because when God helps you, nothing is wasted. Every experience becomes fuel for your next level. Every tear becomes water for the seeds He planted in your spirit. Every failure becomes instruction for your promotion. You will begin to notice that your steps are ordered differently. You will go to places you didn't plan to go, meet people you didn't expect to meet, and find yourself at the right place at the right time. It will feel as though an invisible hand is guiding you, aligning every detail with divine precision. That is because acceleration is not just about speed. It is about direction. God will not just make you move faster, He will make you move rightly. He will save you from wrong detours and unnecessary delays. You will not have to chase what belongs to you. It will locate you. When divine acceleration begins to manifest, even your conversations begin to carry weight. You will speak and find that words open doors. You will present ideas that find favor without struggle. You will notice that the hearts of men lean toward you with kindness you did not earn. This is not luck, it is divine orchestration. God moves in the hearts of others to accomplish His purpose in your life. He can whisper your name into the ear of someone miles away, and they will wake up thinking of you. That is how heaven works when God is helping you. It arranges everything in your favor. Acceleration also manifests in your spiritual life. Prayers that once felt dry begin to overflow with life. Scriptures that once felt ordinary suddenly burn with revelation. You will find yourself growing faster than before, understanding things that used to confuse you, walking in clarity you never had. This is because the Spirit of God begins to expand your capacity. What took others decades to discern, God can reveal to you in moments of intimacy with Him. His help is not limited to physical progress. It transforms your inner life as well. There is also a divine synchronization that comes with acceleration. Suddenly, people, resources, and opportunities begin to arrive in harmony. The right door opens exactly when you have the right strength to walk through it. The right relationship appears when your heart is ready to handle it. God times everything so that no blessing becomes a burden. When He helps you, you don't need to rush or manipulate outcomes. You simply need to be sensitive and obedient. One of the most beautiful signs of divine acceleration is that others will begin to notice something different about you. They will say, "How did you do this so quickly?" They will try to explain it logically, but there will be no logical explanation, because divine help does not follow human logic. It follows divine order. What took others a lifetime will begin to happen for you in a moment, not because you are better, but because grace is now upon your labor. However, divine acceleration is not a license for pride. It is an invitation to humility. Because when you see how swiftly God can turn your story, you realize that it was never about your ability. It was always about His mercy. You become more grateful, more dependent, and more reverent. You learn that success without God is fragile, but with God, even small beginnings carry eternal weight. When God helps you, He will not only accelerate your achievements, but also your healing. Emotional wounds that lingered for years can suddenly disappear. The bitterness that seemed impossible to overcome can melt away in a single moment of divine encounter. The pain that slowed you down will lose its power. This too is acceleration. God moving your heart from sorrow to joy, from confusion to clarity, from fear to faith. Sometimes divine acceleration comes disguised as disruption. God will close doors that you were depending on, not to harm you, but to remove the obstacles that were keeping you from moving faster. You might cry over the doors that close, but soon you will realize that those very closures were the winds behind your next elevation. God knows how to clear your path, even when it feels like chaos. What looks like loss is often the beginning of your leap. Divine acceleration teaches you to trust the pace of heaven. It is not about doing more, it is about aligning more. When you are in sync with God's timing, even your rest becomes productive. You stop striving and you start flowing. You stop forcing and you start fulfilling. You stop competing and you start completing. Because divine help makes you efficient without exhaustion. This is why when God helps you, you must be ready. The blessings will come quickly, the opportunities will multiply, and the level of responsibility will increase. Acceleration requires stability. God will not accelerate what is unprepared. So before He moves you forward, He will strengthen your foundation. He will build your character before He expands your influence. He will teach you dependence before He releases abundance. When the season of divine acceleration comes, there is no delay too deep for God to redeem, no setback too severe for Him to reverse, and no limitation too strong for Him to break. He is the master of time and transformation. He can compress a lifetime of progress into 1 year, 1 month, 1 moment. And when that moment comes, you will know it, not because of noise or drama, but because peace will follow speed. When God begins to help you, one of the first things you will feel is an unexplainable peace. It is not the kind of peace that depends on circumstances, comfort, or control. It is the peace that flows from His presence, the peace that anchors your heart when everything else is shaking, the peace that silences the storms within even when the storms outside are raging. When divine help begins to operate in your life, your environment might not change immediately, but your response to it does. You will find yourself calm in situations that used to terrify you, steady in places that used to shake you, and confident in moments that once overwhelmed you. This is because the presence of God is no longer visiting you, it is resting upon you. When God helps you, He does not always remove the storm. Sometimes He strengthens you to stand in it. You begin to experience a supernatural calmness that cannot be explained. You stop reacting to fear because your spirit starts responding to faith. You begin to realize that peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of divine order. The Holy Spirit begins to whisper to your heart that everything is already under control, even when your eyes see chaos. You may not know how things will work out, but you are certain they will. That quiet certainty is the mark of divine help. This peace is not passive, it is powerful. It guards your mind against anxiety and your heart against discouragement. It allows you to think clearly in confusion and to make decisions without panic. The world may say, "You should be worried," but something in you refuses to yield. You simply know that you are held by a higher hand. When you walk with this peace, people will look at you and wonder how you remain calm when everything seems to be falling apart. They will not understand that it is not strength. It is surrender. You have surrendered your fears to the one who cannot fail. There is a dimension of peace that only comes through prayer. When God begins to help you, prayer stops being a duty and becomes your dwelling place. You start to find joy in quiet communion with Him. You talk to Him not because you must, but because you need to. You feel His presence as a covering over your soul. Every time you pray, your worries lose their weight. Your burdens shrink in the light of His greatness. You realize that peace is not something you fight for. It is something you receive. You stop striving for control and start resting in trust. The peace of God does not always shout, it whispers. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It settles over you like morning dew. You wake up one day and realize that what used to break you no longer affects you. The words that once wounded you no longer penetrate. The failures that once haunted you no longer define you. This peace does not numb you, it strengthens you. It teaches you that your value, your destiny, and your future are safe in the hands of your Maker. When divine peace comes, it reorganizes your priorities. You begin to care less about being understood and more about being aligned with God's will. You stop chasing approval and start pursuing purpose. You stop trying to fix everything and start trusting that God already has. This shift is freedom. It allows you to focus on what matters most, to walk in love, to live in gratitude, and to move in confidence. The more you rest in God's peace, the more your outer world begins to reflect your inner stillness. This unshakable peace becomes your protection. It becomes the invisible wall that keeps anxiety from ruling your thoughts. It becomes the cushion that absorbs life's unexpected blows. It does not prevent pain, but it prevents panic. You learn to respond instead of react. You learn to wait instead of worry. You learn that silence is not emptiness. It is the language of trust. Many people look for peace in possessions, achievements, or relationships. But the peace that comes when God helps you is rooted in His presence alone. You could have everything and still feel empty, or you could have little and still feel full. When God's peace fills you, you no longer depend on external things to feel secure. You can sit in uncertainty and still smile. You can walk through loss and still feel loved. You can face tomorrow without fear because you know who holds it. Sometimes, this peace will come in moments when you least expect it. You might be in tears, and suddenly a quiet assurance will rise in your heart. You might be in confusion, and suddenly you will sense clarity that did not come from logic. It is as if heaven whispers, "Be still, I am here." That whisper is stronger than any shout of fear. It reminds you that even in darkness, you are not alone. When God helps you, peace is not seasonal. It becomes your constant companion. This peace transforms the way you handle relationships. You stop arguing to prove a point. You stop fighting battles that are not yours to fight. You start seeing people through the lens of grace. Offenses that once consumed your heart begin to lose their grip. You learn to forgive quickly because you have tasted peace deeply. You begin to realize that maintaining peace is more valuable than winning arguments. You stop defending yourself because you know that God is your defender. When the peace of God governs your spirit, your mind becomes clear. Worry loses its power. You begin to think from a place of faith, not fear. You can make wise decisions because your emotions are no longer in control. You can hear God's voice more clearly because the noise of anxiety has been silenced. You begin to move with purpose, not pressure. Even when the path is uncertain, peace gives you stability. It becomes the compass that points you back to trust every time your heart begins to wander. This kind of peace cannot be produced by effort. It is birthed by revelation. The revelation that you are not alone. The revelation that God is not distant, but near. The revelation that nothing happening to you has escaped His notice. When this truth becomes alive in you, fear loses its argument. The enemy may try to bring confusion, but you remain still because your confidence is in the one who never fails. You no longer need to know every detail of how things will work out. You just need to know that they will. When God helps you, peace becomes your atmosphere. It surrounds your home. It fills your conversations. It follows you into your workplace. People will begin to sense it even before you speak. They will say, "There's something different about you." That difference is not personality. It is presence. You have learned to rest in the rhythm of grace. You have stopped striving to be seen and started trusting to be sustained. There is a certain lightness that comes when peace becomes your portion. The burdens that once felt unbearable no longer crush you. The deadlines, the pressures, the expectations, they lose their power to control your mood. You begin to see that everything is temporary except His faithfulness. You live with the awareness that God is for you, and that awareness becomes your anchor. Even when the waves rise, your heart remains steady. Peace is not the absence of pain, but the confidence of purpose. You may still face challenges, but you know they will serve your growth. You may still encounter loss, but you know it will lead to gain. You may still feel the heat of the furnace, but you know the fire will not consume you. It will refine you. This peace does not deny reality, it transcends it. It tells you that even in the darkest night, morning is already on its way. When God helps you, His peace will train your heart to stop rushing ahead of His plan. You will no longer chase outcomes. You will walk in obedience. You will understand that peace is not found in getting what you want, but in trusting who He is. You will stop measuring God's goodness by your comfort and start measuring it by His consistency. And even when the future seems uncertain, this peace will whisper the same truth again and again, that the one who began the work in you will surely bring it to completion. When God begins to help you, your words start to carry power. You will notice that what you say with faith begins to manifest, not because of your eloquence or emotion, but because the Spirit of God breathes upon your speech. You are no longer speaking from human limitation. You are declaring from divine partnership. When God's hand rests on you, your voice becomes more than sound. It becomes a vessel for His authority. Heaven begins to echo your declarations, and the atmosphere starts to respond to your words. This is not pride, it is spiritual law. When God helps you, He releases His power through your mouth, because creation itself responds to the voice of faith. The book of Genesis shows that everything began with words. God spoke and light appeared. He declared and worlds took shape. When He helps you, that same creative anointing begins to work in you. You may speak over your situation, and suddenly, what was once dead begins to show signs of life. You may declare peace over chaos, and the confusion begins to dissolve. You may speak healing over your body, and strength begins to rise from weakness. The more you walk with God, the more you realize that your tongue is not just an organ of speech, it is an instrument of authority. When divine help rests upon you, the Holy Spirit begins to teach you how to use your words wisely. You become more aware of what you say, because you understand that every declaration is a seed. Words carry energy, they create realities. Before, you might have spoken carelessly, saying things like, "I can't," or "It's too late." But now, something inside you resists those confessions. You begin to speak with faith instead of fear, hope instead of despair. You start to declare, "I will rise. It shall come to pass. God is with me." And the moment you speak, you feel strength enter your spirit. The authority that comes when God helps you is not loud, but it is powerful. You do not need to shout to be heard in the spirit realm. You can whisper, and heaven will move. You can pray silently, and yet angels will respond. You will realize that divine authority is not about volume, it is about alignment. When your heart aligns with God's will, your words carry His weight. You become a mouthpiece for heaven, and every time you speak by faith, something begins to shift. This authority also manifests in prayer. You will find yourself praying differently. You will no longer pray from a place of fear, begging God to intervene, but from a place of confidence, declaring His promises with boldness. You begin to speak to mountains, not about them. You will no longer describe problems to God. You will describe God to your problems. You will begin to command healing, restoration, and deliverance, not as someone demanding from a distance, but as a child enforcing the authority of their Father. This is the language of divine help, speech backed by the power of heaven. When God helps you, even your casual words carry grace. People will come near you and feel encouraged, not because you gave them advice, but because your words were saturated with peace. You will speak comfort without effort, and hearts will find healing in your sentences. You will share faith naturally, and it will ignite something in others. God will use your mouth to plant seeds of hope in those who are weary. You will begin to understand that your words can build or break, heal or harm, lift or limit. And because His Spirit is guiding you, you will choose to speak life. Divine authority in your words is not just about what you say to others. It is also about what you say to yourself. When God helps you, He will begin to correct your internal dialogue. You will stop agreeing with defeat and start aligning with destiny. You will hear His Spirit gently whisper, "Don't say that," when you start to speak from fear. Instead, He will fill your mouth with declarations of faith. You will begin to remind yourself of who you are in Him. You will say, "I am chosen, I am strengthened, I am protected, I am guided." And those confessions will not just comfort you, they will transform you, because words spoken under divine authority reshape the soul. When your words are anointed, even the enemy begins to recognize it. The forces that once intimidated you begin to retreat because they know your speech is backed by heaven. You will find that your declarations stop being mere wishes. They become decrees. You will command confusion to leave, and peace will come. You will rebuke fear, and courage will rise. You will speak light into the darkest places, and illumination will follow. When God helps you, He gives your words the same creative power that shaped the universe. This power is not for pride or display. It is for purpose. God empowers your words so that His kingdom can advance through your obedience. Every time you speak in faith, you make room for His will to manifest on earth. You are not just praying for things to happen, you are partnering with God to bring them into being. This is why He helps you, to make you an instrument of His expression. Your voice becomes an extension of His word, and your declarations become channels of His glory. Sometimes, God will use your words to bring life to others, even when you are going through your own battles. You may be tired, yet when you speak encouragement, strength will flow to someone else. And afterward, you will find yourself refreshed. You will understand that speaking in faith is not only for your benefit, it is a divine responsibility. Every word of life you release multiplies, returning to you with greater power. God uses this process to strengthen both you and those around you. When you begin to operate in this spiritual authority, you will notice that silence also becomes powerful. You will learn that not every situation requires a response. When God helps you, He teaches you when to speak and when to stay silent. Your silence becomes a declaration of trust. It says, "I don't need to defend myself. God will speak for me." There is authority even in restraint, because when you withhold unnecessary words, you give space for divine words to work. The more God helps you, the more your speech reflects His nature. You start to speak with kindness instead of criticism, truth instead of gossip, blessing instead of bitterness. Your vocabulary begins to shift toward faith-filled language. You will find it difficult to speak negatively about others because the spirit within you resists it. You understand that your mouth was not created for complaint, but for creation. Every word becomes a tool for building the kingdom, shaping destiny, and releasing grace. When God anoints your words, your prayers begin to echo in places beyond your reach. You will pray for someone miles away, and they will feel peace at that exact moment. You will declare provision, and unseen resources will begin to move. You will command joy to return, and hearts will be restored. This is the mystery of divine help. It amplifies your influence beyond your natural ability. God takes your simple words and breathes eternity into them. This authority will also demand responsibility. The same power that blesses can also harm if misused. So God will teach you to speak from love, not emotion. Before you utter words, He will remind you that what you release will take root. You will begin to weigh your sentences in prayer. You will learn to speak with precision, not haste, because when your words carry divine backing, they are no longer empty, they are assignments. When God helps you, even declarations that once felt weak become strong. A single word from a heart aligned with Him can change an atmosphere. You may whisper a prayer in your room, and it will set in motion events that alter nations. You will realize that the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is the one empowering your speech. Every time you speak in alignment with His word, resurrection power moves through your breath. As divine help increases, your communication will become a ministry. Your conversations will carry healing. Your instructions will carry wisdom. Your blessings will carry impact. The Spirit will guide your words so that every sentence you speak fulfills a divine purpose. You will no longer talk to impress. You will speak to transform. God's help will make your voice a bridge between heaven and earth, a channel through which His will flows freely into the lives of others.